I'll say this, I use the measuring stick of what does my mother think? Because my mother's not political. She doesn't pay attention to everything that's going on. And unprovoked, my mother asked me, why are they going after Donald Trump? This doesn't make any sense. And so to me, Black woman who's sitting here, I don't even think she voted for him. And she even says, this doesn't seem right. Why are they going after him? I think that says a lot. I think.
Welcome back, Warriors. It's me, Linda B. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. So today, I wanted to talk about how more and more Black voters are leaving the Democratic plantation and going to support Donald Trump. But before we get started, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, make sure the notifications work. On my way to 30,000 subscribers by the end of this month. I could really use your help. So remember to share my videos. I'm also on Rumble, Chat with me, Linda B, but type it in as one word. And don't forget, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, X, and Patreon as Chat with me, Linda B. And before we get into everything, let's have a word from our sponsor, Childlight Candles.
Homelessness among veterans is a critical issue. In the U.S., 35,574 veterans were homeless in 2023, a 7.4% increase from 2022. Despite efforts, many veterans still face unemployment, poverty, and lack of affordable housing. You can help today. 25% of every purchase goes to help homeless veterans across the country.
Yes, Childlight Candles is a Christian American-owned company where 25% of their profits go to veterans and their families and also towards children. Again, this is an American-owned company. These candles are amazing. I have the apples and maple bourbon candle right here. Smells so wonderful. You all can check out the link in the description, childlightcandles.com. Also put in the 10% discount code of Linda B. Now, without further ado, let's get into it.
Now, by Wrong Speak Publishing founder Adam Coleman. Great to have you here on Outsiders, Adam. Got the book behind you, Black Victim, Black Victor, and let's talk about Joe Biden, where he sits in that Black Victim or Black Victor pantheon. Obviously the news has been pretty consistent this week that Black men in particular are supporting Donald Trump, but is Biden seriously losing the Black vote?
Yes, I think he's losing the Black vote for the same reasons as that gentleman in that clip was stating. It's mostly economic reasons. We have less buying power, and whoever's in power, we're going to blame. So Joe Biden's in power. He's held responsible for our economic distress. So I think that is the number one reason. I do think immigration is becoming a major issue for all Americans, especially Black Americans, because over 60% of Black Americans live within these urban city areas. And that's where all these people are going, especially in Democrat cities in the North, like Chicago and New York City. And so you're starting to see resources taken away from the people within these cities and basically brought over to support these particular people who aren't even supposed to be here. And it's even worse because Joe Biden has not controlled the border, and he's held responsible for it. And then on top of that, Joe Biden doesn't want to provide any sort of resources for the cities to support the distress of the cities. So I think all types of people, including Black Americans within these cities, are blaming Joe Biden for this.
Rita.
But yes, Trump is almost doubling what the Democrats, what the Republican nominee typically would get from that Black demographic, but it's still 80%. What are the main reasons that the African-American vote is so strongly behind the Democrats, even if it's fracturing a little bit at the moment?
I think the biggest issue is that it is cultural. like I said before, most Black Americans, over 60% of Black Americans live within or in the surrounding Democrat-controlled cities. So in these cities, they're not being there's not much competition for their vote coming from the Republican Party. And I say this from experience. Many Black Americans don't even know Republicans. Their idea of what a Republican is basically what they see on television. And that's not the best way to gauge what a political party supports by listening to a left-wing media apparatus that gives you some sort of filtering of what the Republicans want. So
Yes, they're getting information. He just said it. And it's Americans. I say Americans are getting information from a left-leaning media outlet that's going to filter the information that is put out. Okay, everybody is smart enough to get that. Everybody should know that the media is left-leaning. They are. They want put out what you want. They want you to see. They edit clips. They don't play the whole, clip, and they don't put it in its full context. They wrap their narrative around it. So when people look at the news and they have the misconception that the news is telling them the truth, they believe that Donald Trump is a horrible person. Because if you listen to CNN or any of these other left-leaning stations, MSDNC is what I like to call them, but MSNBC, then you have the mistaken conclusion, oh, he must be horrible. He's a racist. He's a misogynist. He's all these things, but it's not true when you really get into the nuts and bolts, when you realize that they're duping you and hoodwinking us. They duped me. I fell for the okie doke. So we don't need that. We need to do our own researches. I equate it to someone who goes to church and listens to what the preacher says, but never goes home and studies their Bible on their own. Okay? Because how do you know? Preacher might be a wonderful man, but how do you know he got it right? So you got to make sure that that person is speaking truthfully. Do our own research. We got to stop just taking and being spoon-fed. The media is owned by, the Democrat Party. It is everything in Hollywood, because if you see the correlation between what the media puts out, you look at certain TV programs, you can't even look at a clean show without having some woke agenda in the show. You can't even count 10 primetime shows that are on right now, not those in the past, that are on right now. You can't even count 10 that are on during prime time that don't have woke agenda in it. They have wokeism all throughout. And that's what the Dems do. So if you see that, you should be able to correlate that they are like in lockstep with each other, because the Dems own the media. They own the news outlets. They own even the TV shows and stuff. They own what is being pushed out. So, and also over the public school system, which, educates us and causes us to think a certain way. That's why these kids on these college campuses, they are going nuts because of stuff that the woke mob is doing. So let us beware of I'm sorry, I went off on another rant.
Honestly, I think local elections are extremely important. The problem is that, and I understand it from a fiscal standpoint, but the problem is that Republicans for decades, like you said, generations, have not shown up in many of these cities. Chicago, for example, hasn't had a Republican mayor since the early 1900s. New Orleans hasn't had a Republican mayor since the 1800s.
Two of the most crime-riddled cities in America. In fact, I think they're 1 and 2.
But Adam, I want to ask you though, let's move beyond the general sort of broad, political ballot box sort of part to the way the racial tensions are still being exploited in other areas. And there was a fascinating case this week where a Facebook executive was sentenced to 5 years in prison for, this scam. And they were a DEI, diversity executive, and they had a scam. They were ripping people off. They ripped the companies off, $5 million, going to jail. But they used the sort of the shield of DEI and racism to avoid criticism and prosecution. And I mean, that just sums up to me the way that these sorts of efforts, which are really about dividing people, are then used as cover for all sorts of other things. What do you think, Adam?
No, you're exactly right. In my piece for the New York Post, I highlight how basically DEI is a sham. It's run by a sham ideology. You can't prove if DEI is working. How do you show the cost benefit analysis of DEI? You can't. But at the end of the day, DEI wants more money. They want more money to support the industry in itself. They want more trainings. They want more meetings, more paperwork to show what at the end? Nothing. But everybody gets paid, right? All the consultants get paid. And someone like this woman, Smiles, who got prosecuted, and thankfully there was some sort of justice that was brought to us. She's basically facing 5 years for being a con artist. And the reason she was able to get away with it is because you don't question DEI within corporate America. Why is the budget of DEI offices 2 times the budget of offices that actually make money within corporations? You're not supposed to ask these questions. And so I think that's the general weakness that you're seeing within corporate America.
That when you get across someone or an organization, whatever it is, that doesn't want you to ask questions, reminds me of religious cults, because I was kind of in a soft cult at some point. Thank God for deliverance. You go to ask a question and you're not supposed to ask a question. How dare you ask questions? You just do what we say. That lets you know you're in the wrong place. Something is wrong. You're not supposed to ask questions. And the budget is very high for these programs. How can you do a cost benefit analysis? How can you determine if it is working? And this woman got in trouble for, I believe it said $5 million. A con artist. DEI is a sham, a scam. It's horrible. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is anything but that. I've said it before and I'll say it again. They want diversity of bodies, what you look like, what your orientation is, but they do not want diversity of thought. They do not want you to think for yourselves. They are brainwashing stations. The same with CRT. You got CRT, you got DEI, you got all these things that actually all they do is try to get people to think a certain way. It's mind control. It's really mind control. And the left, the Demon Rat Party, this is, they're the ones for the DEI. They give it a nice name. And then when the Republicans are not for it, they're like, you're being racist. No, you're being racist. But it's more of a covert racism more so than an overt racism. It is a covert racism disguised in fake compassion. We want everybody to be more diverse with more equity and inclusion and make sure the little minorities get their chance. They smile in your face and stab you in your back. It's the kiss of Judas when he kissed Jesus. Yes, trying to pretend like you love somebody by kissing them and you handing them over to be crucified. That's the Demon Rat Party. Oh, they're not just going to come out and say, we're the devil. They're not going to do that. The devil comes as an angel of light. And I believe the devil is using the Democrat Party. And that's why I call them the Demon Rat Party. That's just me. I hope y'all who vote Democrat don't get too offended. But if you look at the results rather than what they're saying, look at what they're doing and the results of how the Democrat-led cities look. They just mentioned Chicago and New Orleans, the two of the most crime-ridden cities. Look at any Democrat-led city that has been Democrat for some decades, they're in a mess. There's crime, there's chaos, the people aren't doing well, the public schools stink to high heaven. I mean, that is the Democrat Party. But people look at what people are saying and they put up a Black person in front of them to be the leader. So they go, oh, okay, I'll vote for this person. That's the one they're using to work against you the most, the one that looks like you. That's just what the Demon Rat Party does. That's what they do. That's their MO. That's their modus operandi. That is what they do. That's how the devil does. He uses someone who looks like you, who talks a good game, who's a smooth operator with their tongue. They're a great orator. Oh, they can talk you. They can talk the clothes off of anybody, so to speak. And then, they're used to hurt you. Okay, we've seen this over and over again in Democrat-led cities. So make no mistake, you all in those cities now, you need to change how you vote and stop being ridiculous about this now.
Adam, I wanted to ask you about Donald Trump, the various trials that he's going on. He made comments earlier in the week, which has sent many on the sort of usual suspects at CNN and elsewhere absolutely berserk, where he said that many Black Americans identified, I'm paraphrasing Donald Trump, obviously, but he was saying many Black Americans identified with him because they'd been persecuted in the same way that he was being persecuted by a flawed justice system. The left have gone crazy, called him a racist, et cetera, et cetera. But do you think there's any legitimacy in that argument of his?
I think there might be some who carry this viewpoint that the justice system is overwhelmingly against Black Americans when facing justice, and maybe there is some sort of persecution against them. Whether that's the case or not, that can be debated. But I'll say this, I use the measuring stick of what does my mother think? Because my mother's not political. She doesn't pay attention to everything that's going on. And unprovoked, my mother asked me, why are they going after Donald Trump? This doesn't make any sense. And so to me, Black woman who's sitting here, I don't even think she voted for him. And she even says, this doesn't seem right. Why are they going after him? I think that says a lot. I think a lot of people are saying, when you're going after Donald Trump for hush money, where he's likely not going to get any sort of jail time or any severe punishment, right? They're just trying to drag him through the mud and make him spend a whole bunch of money on lawyer fees. I mean, to me, this seems politically motivated. Anybody who's not partisan can see that it's politically motivated, whether you like him or not. And I'm hearing story after story from random people who are saying the same thing as my mother, that this seems highly politically motivated. It seems very obvious as to what's going on, and they don't like it.
Adam, I think we should always listen to our mothers, and I love the idea of the Mrs. Coleman metric. I think we should get Mrs. Coleman on at some point to talk about this very thing. But absolutely, we want to hear from her point of view because she's spot on there. Adam Coleman, thanks so much, and say g'day to Australia to your mum.
Yes, I would say it's politically motivated. And it also reminds me of, and I was thinking about this as I was getting ready this morning, that, looking in the Bible, again, I know I make a lot of correlations with the Bible because I try to read it every single day, that when you look in the Bible and the powers that be at that time, the evil powers, the political powers that be, always try to hush up someone who's speaking truth. Look how they treated the disciples. Look how they treated Jesus. So when you have the political powers going after someone and wanting them to hush, like they did with Trump and these gag orders, and all these cases and these indictments and charges, and they're all a bunch of hogwash. See my Stephen A. Smith and Byron Donalds, video. Go in there and find that one. I'll try to link it at the end of this one. I hope I remember. But that one is very informative, where Byron Donalds, he's a congressman out of Florida, breaking it down that each of these indictments is just total hogwash. I call it bull, sugar, honey, iced tea. That's what I call it. I try to clean up my language every now and again. But yes, that's what it is, because this politically motivated. His mother, this young man's mother, said that she's not even into really politics like that. She was going, this doesn't seem right. History always repeats itself. So when you see someone speaking, because they'll imprison you for the truth. They're not going to say and do anything to you really for lying most of the time. When it's the truth and it calls people out who are in those high positions, they want that person to hush. They want the person to be quiet, to silence them. But Donald Trump is up against the system, but God is using him. I truly believe that. If you haven't seen my video with the preacher and what he said about Donald Trump, please go find that video, please, and look at it, because it's so much going on, guys. This year politically is going to be very chaotic. There's no telling what the evil demon rat or the deep state, whatever you want to call it, is going to try to do to mess up things. There's no telling. There's no telling. Absolutely. We don't know. We just don't know. But you all tell me your comments, about this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Thank you all so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. On my way to 30,000 subscribers by the end of this month. You be blessed, love God, your families, and as I always say, march on, Warriors.